I think for me, the trick is being comfortable with your identity. If I think of the artists who I really love and I admire, and particularly those with longer careers, they are very happy being themselves and comfortable being themselves. Like I think of Nick Cave or Leonard Cohen or PJ Harvey. You can tell it's them from just listening to a few seconds of a new record, but all throughout their careers, they're always striving to do something new. And I think that's the trick. It's to feel, to still have the hunger to go on and to do something new and to feel never satisfied, but to be comfortable with who you are and to not try and disguise your identity. Occasionally, I will hear an artist or a band, and it's as if they're trying to pretend that they're not who they are. And I always feel disappointed by that. I always feel like, no, listen, I like you. I like your band. Like I want you to be you. So I just kind of take what I like in other artists and apply it to myself, really, and that's it. It was actually a very positive experience making that record. Like yourself, I don't really like looking at the past for too long. I think if you spend your time looking at the past, you can't see where you're going into the future. And but I think it's good to take moments in your life. It's as if when you're walking up a hill, you pause and look over your shoulder to see, oh, right, I've come this far. I'm going up there. Like it's good to have these moments occasionally. And that felt like that doing the Hits to the Head record. It was also inspiring because when you put together a record like that, you really do understand the essence of what it is that you make. And also, I was talking about knowing your identity. It's very clear what makes a band good when you listen to a greatest hits record. And it kind of made me almost competitive with myself. Like I wanted to, for this new record, I wanted to make a set of songs that could be played with any of those songs on that greatest hits record and really stand up to it. And kind of, I felt almost like I wanted to start volume two right now, like it felt, yeah, it really kind of spurred me on to do something at least as good, if not better. That was kind of like what was in my head when we started making this record. Yeah, I'd say it's not like you have a different personality, but it's as if one part of your personality gets amplified when you take on different roles. And so, for example, my personality on stage is not really present all the time in the studio because otherwise it would be a pain in the neck. Like sometimes you have to have a very analytical, cool head in the studio because I think you have to have, and you have to be able to jump between them and be able to move between. So, like for example, when you perform, you have to be lost in the moment. You have to be just there performing and thinking of nothing else. However, when you listen to the takes afterwards, you have to have a very, almost like a cold head. You have to be able to say, because you have to be able to say, no, I don't love that. That's not good enough. And you have to say, right, we're going to do that again until that is good enough, or no, that one is good enough and that one's better. And I quite enjoy that. I find that quite a challenge. Um, I know that I've got to keep it all separate from each other as well, because if one starts interfering with the other, then I don't do it as well. And for example, when I go on stage, a lot of my friends, when they go on stage, I used to be like this as well, that they'll have a bit of a party before they go on, they'll have a few drinks or whatever. Not for me anymore. I've got to empty my head completely. Like I almost like I'm in a meditative trance before I go on stage with nothing else in my mind, so that all I'm thinking about, all that's consuming me is being on stage and performing. Because I never want any other thought to come into my mind when I'm on stage other than what I'm feeling with the performance. Because I mean, I've got to be brutally honest. It's the greatest experience you can have, like being in front of people and feeling that energy flowing through you and feeling it back from the crowd. It's yeah, phenomenal. Do lose the moment by like sort of seeing the gig through their phone screen rather than through their eyes. And like I guess we're so used to watching our phones that it's kind of second nature in a way, but yeah, stick your phone away. However, I also feel that one of the reasons that I play in a band is because I'm a rebel and I hate being told what to do by anybody. And I also hate telling people what to do too. So while I think that people should put their phones away, I don't like telling them that they should. I think they should work it out themselves. Yeah, I think they should put their phones away, but work it out yourself. I'm not your teacher. You do what you want to do. So yes and no. Like in the most essential way, no, not at all. Because I think the process of performing is exactly as it would have been 10,000 years ago, because humans have always done some sort of performance and entertaining and collective experience like that, which is it's the same in all sorts of performances and different genres. We're searching for that same elevation of losing ourselves and getting to a greater place. The practicalities of touring have changed. Yeah, sure. It's more expensive and you make less money. That's to put it simply. And I think the big tragedy about that is it means that there are a lot less smaller bands on the touring circuit now, because they just simply can't afford to get out there. And I find that a shame. There's a lot of people around the world not getting to see some music that they probably love, because it's just not economically viable for them. That makes me sad. Yeah, no, you're right. In some ways, I think it's very good that people are now talking about this, because for years it just would never be talked about, or if it was, if you did bring it up, like, then it would either be because you were completely destroyed, and then people just go, all right, that's them over now, but also there was kind of like always been a bit of machismo involved in sort of like the rock and roll world. Do you know what the worst thing is? It's not the toll of touring. It's not the toll of performing. It's not the toll of traveling. Of course, these things can be difficult, but they're not really that hard. Do you know where most mental health problems come? They come from the expectation to over consume. It's the expectation to be drunk all the time or off your face on drugs all the time, even stoned all the time, like that has a way more powerful detrimental effect on your mental health than performing on stage does. And that is the true thing that's not being talked about. People don't want to talk about that. And there's a lot of bullshit going on in the way that this mental health stuff is addressed. And I have I've got friends who talk about their mental health issues openly one minute, and then they're telling me how they are California sober at the other minute, which means that they're just smoking loads of weed all the time. It's like, you're depressed. Why are you depressed? It's because you're taking a depressant all the time. Stop smoking the weed and you're going to be less depressed. Why is nobody saying this? It's like it's insane. I do. I feel that very strongly. Like we came over to Chile for the first, was it 2005 or 2006? Very early on, like it's a long time ago now. And there's always been a strong relationship, even and playing Viña del Mar as well. Like that was very, very powerful for us, like an incredible experience. There's also been some other moments that have been very moving. Like when there was the big earthquake a few years ago, we came back and we played. It was only like 2 or 3 weeks after the earthquake. And I remember driving into Santiago and going over the bridge, and there was like a huge gap in the bridge where like the place was still damaged. And I remember thinking, is anybody going to come out to a gig? Is anybody going to actually come out and like kind of, is everybody not just going, because there were still tremors, there were still aftershocks at the time. But people came out, and the show was one of the most memorable shows I've ever played. And there was a very special warmth and love in the room that day. And, things like that, they're the big moments that you remember in your life. And yeah, I have some very strong, deep memories of times I've spent in Chile. And over the years, I've got to know some good people there as well. And yeah, I feel a lot of warmth to Chile.